The scent of hickory smoke and sizzling sausage floated through the humid air as the Tran family's annual Labor Day cookout kicked off in Baton Rouge. Kids chased each other through the grass, plastic plates stacked with cornbread and coleslaw clattered on folding tables, and my uncles argued about LSU football like it was a court case. I leaned against a magnolia tree near the edge of the yard, 38 now, though my family still saw me as the one who never quite made it. My younger sister Felicia sparkled in a canary yellow wrap dress, charming our aunts with tales of her job prospects and international travels. Felicia just wrapped up her MBA at Columbia, my mom crowed, loud enough to carry over the buzz of the bug zapper. She's been interviewing with some real powerhouses, Amazon, Bain, even Tesla. She beamed, clearly basking in reflected glory. I took a slow sip from my sweet tea, waiting for the punchline. And meanwhile, she added with a practiced sigh, someone's still doing whatever it is she does. Right, Monica? I smiled faintly, unfazed. Across the lawn, my dad manned the smoker, apron on and beer in hand. Still messing around with that tech thing? He asked. Data dashboards or something? He chuckled, not cruelly, but never seriously. I glanced at my phone. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., final merger approval with Delta Metrics, followed by the rollout of our new executive suite. As founder and CEO of Crestview Analytics, I'd be making the call. Something like that, I said with a shrug. That's when Felicia clapped excitedly. Big news! I have an interview tomorrow with Crestview Analytics. Can you believe it? They called me directly. It's one of the top data strategy firms in the U.S. Applause rang out. Aunt Cheryl handed her a mimosa. I just smiled. She'd be seeing me again, just not in the way she expected. That's incredible, Felicia. I just read a piece about Crestview's founder. Brilliant woman, completely self-made, my Uncle Dennis chimed in, nodding with admiration. My dad gave a satisfied grunt as he turned a slab of brisket. That firm's no joke. They only hire the best, real selective. I suppressed a laugh, picturing the HR folder open on my laptop back in my home office. Felicia Tran, neatly listed among the external candidates for the final interview round. She didn't know the firm she was hyping up was mine, that I had started Crestview Analytics in a cramped Baton Rouge apartment 13 years ago with a used laptop and a second-hand coffee pot, while she'd followed every rule laid out for her. I'd spent my 20s writing new ones. What role are you interviewing for? I asked casually. Felicia's eyes lit up. Senior strategy consultant, practically executive tier, can you imagine? Wow, I said, letting the smile tug at my lips. Sounds promising. She tilted her head, feigning kindness. If I get the job, maybe I can put in a word for you, Monica. I'm sure they've got admin openings you could grow into. My mother raised her wineglass approvingly. That's sweet of you, honey. Lord knows your sister could use a nudge in the right direction. 38 and still, Felicia trailed off, gesturing vaguely in my direction. Figuring it out. I thought about my penthouse office overlooking the Mississippi River, nestled atop the Crestview Tower downtown, about the industry roundtable next week, where I'd be speaking under my professional alias, M. Reese, a name that had recently graced the cover of Wired. They hadn't connected the dots, not yet. That's generous of you, I said, voice smooth as honey. Best of luck tomorrow. Felicia grinned. Some of us create our own luck, sis. You should try it. The conversation drifted on to my cousin's new boat, my aunt's bridge tournament, and Felicia's thesis awards. I let it all wash over me. Tomorrow, everything would shift, and I wanted to remember what they looked like before the mask fell. As twilight settled over the yard, casting amber hues across the crepe myrtle branches, Felicia rose from her seat and tapped her wineglass with a manicured nail. I'll have to call it an early night, she announced, her voice projecting effortlessly. Need to be sharp for tomorrow. She smiled with theatrical pride. The CEO of Crestview Analytics is personally sitting in on final interviews. Reese or something. Nobody even knows who she really is. She tossed her hair. Well, whoever she is, she's going to love me. By this time tomorrow, I'll be part of their executive strategy team. Then she turned to Mom and added with a smug wink, "Maybe then you'll have something real to brag about." Mom dabbed her eyes with a napkin. "Oh, sweetheart, we already do. At least one of our girls didn't lose the plot." I glanced at my watch. 12 hours and 52 minutes until Felicia would walk into the Crescent Room on the 27th floor and find me, Monica Tran, at the head of the interview panel. 12 hours until the world she built on assumptions and status collapsed. I stood and quietly gathered my bag. "Early client call," I murmured. "Oh, your little remote hustle," Mom said, distracted. "Don't forget to Venmo for your father's birthday. Felicia already paid most of it." Again, I nodded and walked to my nondescript gray SUV, the same one I always brought to family functions. My real car, a custom white Mercedes AMG GT, stayed tucked away in my downtown garage. As I backed out of the driveway, tomorrow. Sure. If you want to see Felicia's face when she realizes who's sitting across from her, hit subscribe, because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. What a waste, can't even land a real job. I smiled to myself, picturing the brushed steel nameplate on my desk. Reese, Chief Executive Officer, Crestview Analytics. Tomorrow, Felicia would finally learn what a real job looked like, and why she'd never have one at my company. By 6:30 IME, I was already in my penthouse office downtown, sunlight pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Mississippi River. The soft hum of servers warming up and the faint clatter of early arriving staff echoed like music through the halls. I had built every inch of this place, and today it would all come full circle. The slate-gray Max Mara suit hugged me like armor, calm, confident, battle-ready. As I skimmed the morning agenda, my executive assistant, Jade, knocked and stepped in. "Your sister's interview is at 9 a.m. sharp," she said, placing a folder on my desk. "She's in the lobby already. Got here 30 minutes early." "Punctual," I murmured. "That's new?" Jade smirked. She also posted on LinkedIn, manifesting my future as a Crestview exec. "It's trending under Women in Leadership, Marketing Flag Day." I stifled a laugh. Did she now? The folder looked polished. Columbia MBA, impressive internships, glowing references. But I knew better. Those internships? Pulled from our uncle's business network. Those glowing reviews? Family friends. A performance resume stitched together with borrowed thread. "The board's asking why you're sitting in on this one," Jade added. "Quality assurance," I replied, rising from my chair. "How many interviews before mine?" 3, all briefed. They'll dig deep. At 9 o'clock IMing, I stood behind the one-way glass of our top-floor conference suite and watched Felicia glide in. Chanel skirt suit, Louboutins, air of unearned certainty. She shook hands with her first interviewer like she'd already won. For 2 hours, I watched the illusion fall apart. Every canned line picked apart. Every rehearsed story cracked open. Every polished title challenged and redefined. By the time Felicia reached the final interview, her shoulders drooped. Her voice carried the faint edge of doubt, and her once dazzling smile had grown tight and uncertain. "Send her in," I told Jade. Felicia stepped into my office, failing to mask her awe. Her eyes swept over the panoramic windows framing the Mississippi River, the abstract oil painting behind my desk, the soft glow of polished oak and brushed steel. She paused just long enough to take it all in. My back was to her, facing the view. "Please, have a seat, Miss Tran," I said, tone even and restrained. She sat down carefully, crossing her legs, hands folded. "Thank you for taking the time, Mr. Reese. I know how valuable your schedule must be." I slowly turned my chair to face her, letting the silence do the work. "Actually," I said, eyes locking with hers, "it's Miss Reese. Monica Tran Reese." Her face drained of color. She looked to the nameplate, to the awards on the wall, to the framed Forbes cover with the headline, "Reese, the woman quietly reshaping data strategy worldwide." "You," she breathed. "Hello, Felicia," I said with a calm smile. "Surprised to see your directionless sister running the company you couldn't wait to join?" She blinked. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. The prepared answers, the pre-rehearsed jokes, gone. But that can't be, she managed. You're just some remote freelancer. That's what Mom always said. Is that so? I gestured casually to the accolades lining the shelves. While you were collecting degrees, I was collecting contracts. While you flaunted job offers, I was building a global client base. Every time you called me a failure, I was negotiating with Fortune 100s. Felicia's voice cracked. You tricked us. You lied. I met her gaze, steady as stone. No, you just never asked who I really was. No, Felicia, I replied, voice level and controlled. You all tricked yourselves. You were so busy assuming I was a failure, you never once stopped to ask what I was really building. I picked up my phone and opened my banking app, turning the screen so she could see. This birthday money Mom mentioned? Just sent my share. It's a 6-figure transfer. For me, it's a rounding error. Tears welled in her eyes. Not the broken kind, but hot, humiliated, furious. So what now? She snapped. You going to tell the whole family, make a spectacle of this? I shook my head. I don't need to say a word. Your interview performance already did that. 3 senior partners separately recommended against hiring you. Feedback was unanimous. Too arrogant, too shallow, completely unprepared. Her voice cracked. You set me up. I gave you exactly what you asked for. A chance to prove yourself. I just happened to be on the other side of the table. I stood, brushing down the front of my suit. You should look elsewhere, Felicia. Try building something real next time. Something not propped up by hashtags and Uncle Charles's endorsement. She rose unsteadily. Her expensive heels suddenly looked clumsy on the polished floor. The Chanel blazer she wore like a crown now hung like a mask, ill-fitting and exposed. Do Mom and Dad know? They will, I said, stepping past her to the door. I'm sure you'll tell them all about your interview with M. Reese. I pressed the intercom. Jade, please escort Ms. Tran out and cancel my dinner with the family. Yes, Ms. Reese. I've got a board meeting that requires my full attention. As the door clicked shut behind her, I heard her voice crack in the hallway, followed by a muffled sob. Not exactly the triumphant exit she had imagined. An hour later, my phone buzzed with incoming texts. First from Mom. What kind of cruel stunt was that? Felicia is in tears. Then from Dad. How could you humiliate your sister? We didn't raise you to be vindictive. I stared at the screen, let out a quiet breath, and turned it face down on my desk. They finally knew who I really was. But what they didn't realize, what they never asked, was that I'd stopped needing their approval a long time ago. I replied to the family group chat with a single message. You raised me to be successful. Congratulations, you did. Now maybe you'll recognize what real achievement looks like. Then I powered off my phone and turned back to what mattered. Running a billion-dollar analytics firm that reshaped entire industries while they were too busy making jokes at my expense. Let them take their time adjusting. I wasn't slowing down for their comfort. Over the next few weeks, the shift was palpable. When they called, which was rare, the conversations were stiff, deliberate. The old jokes about my side hustle vanished. In their place, cautious pleasantries, awkward silences, and overdone praise during Zoom birthdays. Felicia eventually landed a project coordinator job at a small branding agency across town. Not quite the executive seat she envisioned. No glass-walled office, no viral LinkedIn announcement. Just a job. Earned the traditional way, without shortcuts. Mom and Dad quietly stopped hosting their Sunday dinners. Maybe they were embarrassed. Or maybe they just didn't know how to exist in a world where the daughter they dismissed now owned the skyline they used to point to with pity. But the moment that sealed it came 3 months later. Forbes released their fall issue with a bold headline on the cover. The Silent Success: How One Woman Built a Billion-Dollar Company While Her Family Thought She Was Failing. There I was, centered in full color. Sharp suit, Baton Rouge's cityscape behind me. No aliases, No silhouettes, just Monica Tran Reese, in full view. I had 10 copies express mailed to each of my family members' homes. No card, no message, just the magazine, just the truth. The article traced my rise from cramped freelance gigs in a rented apartment to leading one of America's most trusted AI firms. It laid bare the sacrifices, the strategy, and the silence that had carried me here, right under their noses. And at the end, the final line read, "Sometimes success doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just signs the checks." And for me, that was enough. I no longer craved their praise or their permission to feel proud. I had built something real, something lasting, something that no one could minimize with a joke or dismiss with a shrug. Let them tell their version of the story now. Let them rewrite the past to make themselves seem more supportive. Let them pretend they always believed in me. While they recalibrate their narrative, I'm leading Crestview Analytics into a new era, finalizing our expansion into Europe, onboarding 2 enterprise-level contracts, and mentoring the next wave of underrepresented founders in tech. I'm doing what I love with a team I respect, building systems that matter. Success has already spoken, quietly, clearly, and without apology. And I have no intention of lowering the volume now. If you've ever been overlooked by the people who were supposed to believe in you, trust me, I see you. I know what it's like to sit in a room full of family and feel invisible, to be the one they talk over, laugh at, underestimate. I was called too vague, too emotional, too impractical. I was told I lacked direction while my sister racked up awards and applause. I was cast as the family wild card, harmless, forgettable. But I didn't argue. I didn't beg them to see me. I let the silence speak. And while they were talking, I was building. Now, they can't look away. This story isn't about revenge, it's about resilience. It's about redefining yourself on your own terms. It's about walking into your own power, especially when no one is clapping. So if you've ever felt the need to downplay your wins, if you've ever built something beautiful in the dark just to avoid judgment, or if you're still pushing forward in spite of doubt, drop a comment below and tell me about it. Tell me what you're working on. Tell me who counted you out and what you've done anyway. Tell me what gives you strength when nobody's cheering. Not for validation, but for peace. And if this story made something in you sit up and say, "That's me," hit that subscribe button. This isn't just a channel for underdog stories. It's a space for builders, for dreamers, for quiet giants. It's where we celebrate strength that doesn't need spotlights. Let them laugh, let them doubt. We'll keep building, because sometimes the best way to win is in silence until your name is on the building. Before you go, how are you doing, really? Did something go right today? Or are you just holding the line, one moment at a time? Drop it below. I read every single comment. This isn't just my story, it's ours. Let's celebrate your quiet victories too.